Hey there, island dreamers, locals, and anyone craving a slice of paradise. Welcome back, or welcome for the first time, to the Fun in Key West podcast, where the vibe is always laid back, the stories are salty, and the drinks, well, they're definitely frozen. I'm your host, Michelle O'Connor, your unofficial tour guide to the Conquered Republic. Whether you're planning your first trip, your fifth trip, or you're just daydreaming about trading the cubicle for the ocean breeze, you are in the right place. Here's the deal. This podcast is your insider's guide to all things Key West. We're talking where to eat, hello, conch fritters and key lime pie, where to drink, spoiler alert, there will be rum, where to stay, and all the quirky, wonderful things that make Key West the one-of-a-kind paradise we all love. Plus, we'll keep you up to date on the latest happenings, festivals, events, maybe even the occasional Hemingway look-alike sighting. And just to keep things spicy, we'll be bringing on some amazing guests now and then, locals, business owners, and people who know the island like the back of their sandy hand. So grab your flip-flops, pour yourself a cold one, and let's escape to the island state of mind together, whether you're tuning in from your hammock or your commute, while wishing it was a hammock. We've got all the Key West goodness coming your way. Thanks for being here. It's going to be a lot of fun in Key West. Let's dive in. Welcome. Today, we are diving into one of the most unexpected, and let's be honest, hilarious questions I get asked all the time. What's the deal with all the roosters in Key West? From their sassy struts down Duval Street to their early morning wake-up calls, these feathered locals are as much part of the island as sunsets and, well, frozen drinks. So grab your Cuban coffee, settle in, and let's unravel the wild, weird, and surprisingly historic tale of Key West's unofficial mascots.
Welcome to Fun in Key West, where every day feels like a mini fest. Grab a drink, take it slow. We'll show you where the locals go. Food, fun, and stories to tell. Hidden gems you know so well. Your Key West experts here to say it's fun in Key West every day.
Welcome to another episode of the Fun in Key West podcast. Today, I thought it would be interesting to answer a unique question that I get a lot. And let's be honest, there are some really wild questions that come in, and that's what I'm here for. You can find all kinds of information over at FunInKeyWest.com, but I come on and do our podcast, and I like to answer some questions periodically about, I answer a lot of questions about questions that you all have about Key West and the Florida Keys. So today's episode is going to be a little interesting, and let me know if you can relate. If you're watching me live, go ahead and make a comment and let me know where you're at, and I'll do a shout out. So you arrive in Key West or the Florida Keys, and let's be honest. Nobody books a Key West trip thinking, I really hope I see a lot of chickens and roosters, right? People come to Key West for frozen drinks, sunsets, Duval Street, and of course that iconic buoy photo. Then they arrive, and suddenly the real welcoming committee is a rooster in the middle of the road. In Key West, the roosters act like they own the place, and honestly, I think they really do. Today, I am answering one of those questions that I get a lot, and that is, why are there so many roosters in Key West? So picture this. Before you've even had your first Cuban coffee, a rooster has already judged your outfit, crossed the street like he owns it, and probably interrupted your vacation photo. So let's get into the chaos of all of these roosters and surprisingly fascinating history behind Key West's unofficial street mascots. So what do you notice first when you come to Key West and about these roosters and chickens? You're going to hear them before you really notice them. They're on Duval, they're all over Old Town, they're near cafes, they're in quiet neighborhoods, and sometimes they're in parking lots. Picture like outside of the post office there in Key West, and they congregate like they're tiny little gangs, right? They're not tucked away on farms and they're not secluded away. They are woven into everyday life in Key West. You have roosters, hens, and chicks casually stroll through town like it's normal because in Key West, it really kinda is. And James Cook says, hi. Hi to you too. So, for many visitors, these Key West roosters and chickens, spotting one of these becomes part of the trip. How many can you find? How many can you see? And here's the thing, people either love them immediately or they're completely baffled as to why all of these roosters and chickens are roaming freely. But you're going to see a lot of people come through Key West and try and get their photos, get the videos of them crossing all the streets and everything. But keep in mind, these aren't just random chicks. They are wandering around and they came from nowhere. Their story is tied into Key West's history, immigration, survival, and yes, I'm going to even say it, cockfighting. So, where did these roosters come from? Key West free roaming chickens are widely understood to be descended from birds brought by early settlers for practical reasons like eggs and meat and, why we all have chickens. And then later they were brought in by Cuban immigrants, which was connected to their island and their history. But one of the reasons why they were brought into Key West was for cockfighting, which became part of local culture for a very long time. When cockfighting was outlawed and backyard chickens, the reason for keeping these backyard chickens became less necessary, many of the birds were just released rather than kept. And that then created the feral population that most visitors see today. So the chickens roaming Key West now are not some brand new phenomenon. They are basically descendants of old island life. And like a lot of Key West history, some of these lives in local storytelling, there are a lot of local storytelling in this history. But when you start looking at the broad version of the roosters and the story and all of the history, you have settlers and Cuban influences that brought the chickens and roosters to Key West. And over time, they just became part of the island. And once those birds were loose in paradise, they found a place where life was actually pretty darn good. So, why do they thrive so well in Key West? And why is the population so big? Well, first, Key West climate is warm year round. There's no frost, there's no snow. So, this makes a pretty comfortable place for these chickens and roosters to live. They have adapted very well to free roaming and enjoying island life. They have relatively very few natural predators in town compared to other places that they may opt to live. They also find food really easy, whether it's bugs or scraps. But unfortunately, they sometimes find food because people feed them, which isn't very good for the chickens or the roosters. And you're not allowed to do that. So if you get caught doing that, you can actually be fined. But once the population was established, it multiplied fast. So basically, they got dropped onto this tiny tropical island, and there's lots of sunshine, snacks, and very little standing in their way. And so that brings us to the part of the story that locals know very well. Loving the roosters is one thing, living with thousands of them is another. So there's this obvious love hate relationship. Visitors find them charming, colorful, quirky, and very, very Key West. For residents, they can be loud, messy, and determined to absolutely be noisy and crow at truly awful hours and early in the morning. They wander into yards, they dig up and scratch up gardens, and they make themselves at home wherever they want to. Still, there are many locals who see them as part of the island's charm and their full identity. They are one of those things that make Key West feel really different from anywhere else that you would see. And so we're saying hi and doing a shout out here. So they're equal parts beloved and a local icon and tiny neighborhood nuisances. If you can hear Mr. Coffee, my dog, barking in the background, he is my local neighborhood nuisance because he's letting me know that there's people outside. Well, back to the roosters, and because of the population got so big, the city of Key West had to figure out something to do with all of these roosters and chickens. So that chicken problem got real, right? The city of Key West and the Key West Wildlife Management Center have actually worked together for years to reduce the number of feral chickens roaming the island. In 2020, there was a notice put out that they've been working since 2000, I think 2009, and they have actually relocated over 15,000 birds to the mainland. And if you have a bunch of feral chickens, the city asks residents not to feed them because feeding them boosts more of the population growth, and also because food left on the ground can cause health problems for the birds. For those of you who live in areas where there are deer wandering around, you can kind of relate. They're pretty to see, they're interesting, but they're also very obnoxious and can cause a lot of problems. So, the balancing the act of the feral chickens and roosters with trying to manage a full city and live full time in on the island isn't a new issue. It's an ongoing problem, and it's been having this balancing act for years. A long time ago, when they first started to try and work through this feral rooster population issue, they hired somebody who was basically a bird catcher. And let's just say his intentions, because of what he was instructed to do, weren't exactly in line with what the locals felt should be done with these feral population roosters and chickens. And so it didn't go very well, and it was a short lived program. But today, the approach is much more humane and organized than just trying to chase the roosters around town and try and catch them and do something not so nice with them. Today, like I mentioned earlier, the Key West Wildlife Center says it works with the city of Key West, and they provide rescue assistance, medical care, and adoption services for these feral chickens. So if a local or somebody finds a chicken that is ill or orphaned and needs help, the center works with them to bring them back. And Tim, yeah, they can be a little vicious. I would agree with you on that one. But what the center does once they are brought back to health, or if they're just gathered up and brought over, the center works proactively with farms and other places on the mainland where the birds are then relocated to these properties and caretakers so that they end up in very large free range locations across Florida. And like I mentioned earlier, there's been over 15,000 of these birds relocated. So you can work with the center to humanely trap and then relocate them so that they can continue to have a very nice life on a very large free range property. These tiny birds may run Key West like a street gang, but the current response is much more about relocation and care than punishment by the city. So the city is proactively saying, okay, we want to make sure that these birds are taken care of. And even with all of those measures in place, the roosters are still very much part of the island personality. I mean, Key West is notoriously not only known for its beautiful architecture, but those beautiful feathered, uh, very colorful roosters. And so, why do people love them? You know, they're weird, they're loud, They're absolutely beautifully colored and they're impossible to ignore, which I think makes them perfect in as a symbol for Key West. They had to that anything goes island personality. When you see a mama hen with her chicks crossing the street, it's one of those unexpected moments. And then you see traffic stops to allow them go through. I think it's an amazing thing that's only usually, it's the only place I've seen it is in Key West. And I think they make Key West feel more alive. And it's one of those things that, yeah, you can complain because they started crowing around 5 a.m. But then at 10 o'clock, you're out there taking pictures of them and videos. I think Key West would still be beautiful without them, but I think it would lose a lot of its personality, don't you think? If you've ever wondered why they're everywhere, now you know. It's history, it's culture, and a whole lot of island attitude. I thought I'd run through a few things that myth, facts. So, myth, the roosters are just random escaped pets. Actually, the fact is their roots are tied to early island life. For food production, there was a Cuban influence and the cockfighting traditions as well. There's the myth that the city just ignores these chickens. And the fact is, the city and the Key West Wildlife Center work together and have for years on relocating humanely and managing the population. The myth, feeding them helps them. No, the fact is, the city of Key West has said feeding can worsen the overpopulation and even contribute to health risks during some food outbreaks and some other issues that they may have by eating the food that you give them. Additionally, you can be fined for feeding these chickens and roosters. And that's the one thing about Key West. Even the chickens come away with layers of history, right? Everything has history wrapped up in it. So, yes, the roosters are loud, and yes, they are absolutely can interrupt your vacation, early morning hours, or a photo that you're trying to take. And yes, they can act like they actually think that they own the island, which I think that is what makes them unmistakably Key West, though. They're a mix of history, culture, and island weirdness and local legend all rolled up into one very colorful, loud, and dramatic bird. So the next time you're in Key West and a rooster struts past you like he owns Duval, just remember, in a way, he kind of does. So that's what we do here at FunInKeyWest.com. I provide a lot of information about history of Key West, answer your questions as to why things are the way they are. And I always love it when you stop by and say hi, let me know that you are here. And I love the fact that you are part of this community and you let me do what I get to do. So head over to FunInKeyWest.com for more free guides and lots more information. Check out our YouTube channel. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you are in the know of everything happening. You guys have a great day. I am Michelle with Fun in Key West. Thank you for joining me today. You guys have a lovely evening, and we'll talk to you later. Bye. Well, that's a wrap on today's episode. Whether you are now a rooster enthusiast or just a little more prepared for your next Key West adventure, I hope you had as much fun as I did diving into this island's feathered history. Don't forget to check out FunInKeyWest.com for free guides, insider tips, and all the quirky Key West content your heart desires. And hey, if you have not already subscribed to the podcast, be sure to do that. What are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button and stay in the loop on all things Key West. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Until I see you next time for more fun sound and little island weirdness, keep it colorful and keep it Key West.